Hello everybody, delighted you've joined us today here for our blog on the wonderful revelation of what Jesus has done, what we call New Covenant realities. Josh, this is going to be a great series.
Oh yeah, we're excited to dig right now into the book of Colossians. You know, last week we set up how what Paul does here in the beginning of Colossians is he gives us roughly 10 realities of what Jesus has done in ushering in the new covenant.
Absolutely. I know the first point that we're going to talk about is the fact that you are qualified. But let's highlight real quick. I know the last time, I think it bears repeating, between the indicative use of a verb and the imperative use of a verb. Can you just highlight that very quickly so people can know that, hey, what we're talking about is really a done deal?
Absolutely. It's all presented in the past tense. These, when he's laying out these truths of the new covenant, he's not saying, hey, this is what might be true of you if you go through steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. He's saying, hey, this is what is true of you. He's indicating a state of reality. And so he gives us these verbs in the indicative mood in the past tense, saying this is already true of you because of something Jesus has done. And then in the later end of the letter, he gives us imperative mood verbs saying this is what the love life looks like because of what God has done in His grace.
Awesome. So for us to live the life and do the things that we're supposed to do, which some of the New Testament letters talk about different things to do.
Absolutely.
It's all based on the fact of what's already been done for us because of Jesus Christ. So therefore, now we're equipped in His love to go forth and live the love life and have these characteristics really of His life through us.
Right. It's not for acceptance, it's from acceptance.
It's from acceptance.
It's not slavish obedience, it's the free obedience of a child. It's not sacrificial so I can somehow gain acceptance. I'm sacrificing because I'm already accepted.
Awesome. I tell you, it's really, really rich. Well, let's get into this first reality. It's you have been qualified. And there's a verse actually in Colossians chapter 1, verse 12. I want to read this, Josh, from a new version I've been reading a lot of recently called the Mirror Bible. It says, "We're grateful to the Father who qualified us to participate in the complete portion of the inheritance of the saints of light." I like that we have the complete portion, and we're qualified because of Jesus.
That's right. The Father who is qualified.
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so we're qualified, again, not because of anything we've done, but because of what the Father has done for us in sending Jesus for us. And so He is our qualification. And I think, the idea of being qualified to share in an inheritance, I think all of us can somewhat relate to that idea of being qualified for something, being qualified for an inheritance.
It's really rich. It goes on to say, I know who has made us worthy, or who has made us fit. Sometimes I think we look at our lives before the Father based on ourselves, and we don't feel like we're qualified or fit. We feel like we're a misfit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because people failed in their thought, their word, their deed, whatever. We've all missed the mark, and some of us more than we'd even like to acknowledge. So we think, how in the world can this be a reality for me, that I'm qualified eternally before the Father? And when I feel so much like a misfit, He says I'm fit.
He does. He says it doesn't matter what you feel like, it matters what I've done for you. And so whether you feel like you're qualified or not, hey, it's the Father who's qualified you. And so we can get back in the place where we're recognizing and saying, hey, wait a second, this really is not so much about my track record. It's about what He has done for me. And so
it's amazing. I think that's hard for a lot of us to understand and really enjoy, because we live in a culture that bases everything on qualification. In other words, we live in a system, Josh, that everything is based on merit, and it's based on our performance and what we do right. And sometimes then we take that whole system that we live in, this natural earthly system, we take that before the Father and make ourselves feel that, well, I haven't done enough to really be qualified by the Father and accepted by the Father.
That's right. I mean, you look at it, it's all around the world around us, whether we're trying to get a home loan, and hey, no one's going to give you a loan unless what? You have a good track record, you have a good stream of income, you have, you're a trustworthy person, and so what we do is we take some of those principles from life, whether it's getting a home loan, maybe whether it's for being able to get accepted in some type of schooling we're trying to go through, or whatever it is. We take all those qualifications we learn from life, and we say, this must be how God operates with us in terms of being in a relationship with Him, or going to heaven, or whatever it may be. There must be a certain list of qualifications that we must meet in order to share in the inheritance of the saints of the light.
And part of this qualification, of course, is really the declaration that because of what the Father has done through the work of the Son, we're qualified, we're accepted, and we're declared righteous. So sometimes our qualification, I think, before the Father is, kind of a zeal for righteousness to show, hey, we're good, we're doing good, so to make us feel like we can receive from the Lord. But we are good because God says we're good.
Oh, yeah, we're good because God says we're good. And, it doesn't matter how many mind tricks we try to play with ourselves to where we're saying, okay, finally we feel that we have somehow
done enough,
where we have satiated the demands against us, where we feel like somehow everything's okay because of we're going through our mind and checking off the boxes of what we think needs to be done to qualify, instead of just looking at the truths
I know, Josh,
of the blood.
Through my life, there have been seasons and times where I have felt I've not qualified before the Father.
Yeah.
And it's all because of me. So I didn't think I was praying enough. I didn't, fast enough. Right. I didn't read, I didn't do enough. I wasn't ministering. I wasn't so. I remember years ago, Josh, when I was really young, actually younger than you are now, I would feel so guilty if I wouldn't lead somebody to Jesus every day. And I would feel like I was a failure, I was a loser, and then I would get mad at myself because I wasn't bold as a lion, and I know I'm righteous, I'm supposed to be out, So I put all these demands on myself and really made my life hard to enjoy because it was me who was always inspecting myself, thinking that I'm not good enough really to be accepted or be used by God, and it was all based on my effort. But thank God, I've learned and I'm growing in the love of the Father. And this is a thrilling revelation that we are qualified by the Father through the work of the Son.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we recognize that, some of those things will actually take place in our life where we'll be able to even more effectively share the glorious truth of God's grace. We'll even maybe, as led by the Spirit, participate in those activities of fasting or praying or reading the Scriptures or all those things, but there'll be more joy. We'll recognize that we're not doing them because we're trying to garner God's favor, but we're doing them out of love. We're doing them out of joy. We're doing them out of a sense of peace because we recognize that the indicative grace has gone before the imperatives of love.
That's awesome. And so the imperative love, our response, our follow-through is all because we're resting in what He's done. And I tell you, it changes the whole thing in how you share with people and how you live your life on every part of your worldview. I was thinking of that verse in Romans 10, Josh, verse 2 and 3. It talks about, the Israeli, the Jewish people. They had a zeal for God.
Yes.
But it says it was they were not yet submitted to the righteousness of God. Explain a little bit how that can happen in any of our lives.
Oh, well, I think Paul is a perfect example. When, for instance, we read in the book of Philippians, he gives us a track record. And he says, according to the law, he was blameless. According to persecuting the church, he had zeal. And really, that goes even back to the story of, I think, the man Phineas in the book of Numbers, where he was considered, it said, a zealous man because he threw a spear in the midst of a priest and this woman who were sexually immoral and defiling the community, and he thought that was the way to be zealous for God, was by persecuting the church, or persecuting all these things that were against the covenant faithfulness of a people. And so we see these people with zeal think they're doing all these things that are right for God, and yet like Paul, who thinks he's doing all these things, and he says, I count it all as garbage. It's a bunch of dump. It's worthless because it's zeal misplaced in God. It's not good zeal for God. We can be zealots for God, but zealots for God in the wrong way, when we have not submitted to God's standard of righteousness. And God's standard of righteousness is the righteousness of faith. And it's the righteousness of, that we saw demonstrated in Abraham.
Yeah.
So
this is so good, and that's why I think your explanation of the verbiage usage, the indicative and the imperative, and all these things are so important, because, friends, if we don't rest in the reality of what Jesus has done, if you can't believe that because Jesus shed His blood, because He went to the grave and He has been resurrected for victory for all of us, and a new covenant is established, if we can't submit to the fact that righteousness is a gift and we receive it by faith and yield to that, I tell you, every other bit of zeal to make you feel good or make you feel like you're effective or anything else really is for naught in a lot of sense. So it's really, really important that we understand the importance of what this book of Colossians really is all about, what Paul really unveils, that you and I are qualified. And to me, Josh, that's good news.
Yeah, He's made us fit. He's made us worthy, and it's awesome news.
Absolutely. Hey, friends, thanks for joining us. Don't forget, we got more of this great news on the realities of the new covenant that are for you. So join us next time.